What's going on, everybody? Guys, it's Nate Holloway here, your host of A Father's Authority, and I want to thank you all for joining us for another episode. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, A Father's Authority is a part of Kingdom Relationships, and we exist to change the narrative on fatherhood, to bring fathers back into the lives of their children, or help fathers to increase their presence and increase the relationships that they have with their children. I'm Nate Holloway, your host, and tonight we have a great interview. I have my good friend, my college buddy, Ryan Jenkins. So just guys, listen, you know how we talk. So if he says something that from back in the day is not true, okay, don't believe him. All right, but guys, we're gonna get in it. Let's get at it with the interview. Ryan, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Big Nate? And I just like to throw out that statement. Yeah, it is true. That's all I'm gonna say on that. It's true. You said we're gonna have real talk today, so yeah, we're gonna talk some real stuff.
Shh. My wife watching. No, I'm just joking. Man, so glad to have you on tonight, man.
Appreciate it.
We like I told everybody, like I told you before, Father's Authority, we're here to talk to fathers and to help fathers to impart something into them, to help them raise their children, help them become better fathers, and to help them just have better successful life. So Ryan, I'm not gonna call you Jinx, that's your nickname. You know, I'm gonna call you Ryan. Guys,
no,
Ryan
you
is.
You call me Jinx. You can call me Jinx. That's on all the books and everything else. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, guys, tell you a little bit about Ryan. Ryan is an author. He's a poet. I remember when he started doing poetry, we used to do it in the house, dark room with a light on behind us from the bathroom and a microphone. He was doing poetry, but guys, he has numerous of books that are out right now. I just bought the latest one, which is called Different, and we're going to tell you a little bit about that at the end of the show, and we're going to tell you where you can get his books. But he's a father of three. And I can't believe I'm saying this. He's a granddad now. But I got to get used to saying it. But Ryan, man, tell everybody about yourself. Tell us who you are.
Well, not much to tell. Like you said, father of three, parenthood changes your life. That's all I can say. Being a father, it changes everything. The fact that I have girls, that's totally different. But we'll get to that in a minute. But a little bit about me, yeah, like you said, poet. I started writing poetry when I was 16. Published a few books, and the experience of publishing books and doing motivational talks is to share my experiences in life to help other people. You never know what you're going through or what you've been through can inspire and encourage someone else's life. So mainly, like I said, doing the books, doing the motivational talks. I don't do the poetry open mics as much as I used to, but I still write. And trying to enjoy life, man. Just learning. I mean, God got me learning stuff all the time, learning. But the interesting thing about parenthood, since we're talking about parenthood, you never have the answer to everything.
Right.
You're always learning. Right. You're never expert at it. Parenthood is always class. It's always class, and every child is different. So it's continuous learning. But anyway, I ain't gonna go too far yet. I'm gonna let you talk a little bit.
Good. So tell us about your life growing up with your dad. I know your dad. I know what type of man he is. He was a father to me, a father figure to me. I just thought about our voicemail in college. Your mom fussing us out about our voicemail.
Oh yeah, we cut a fool on that voicemail. That was a
we did. And she chewed us out. But tell us about life with your dad, man.
Well, I'm very fortunate to have the father I had and I had a grandfather I had. So my grandfather was, wow, he was money-minded, but also fun-minded. So he would spend time. I mean, he was serious. He was a serious businessman, but at the same time, when the grandkids came over, me and my sister, he makes time for us, made us laugh, and we had a good time with grandfather. But we saw him in business mode at the same time. So great influence there. And then my father, you can see how he raised us, that you can see how my grandfather raised him. My father spent time with us, played games with us. and he invested time in us. I think that's real important. Whether we were going on vacation or we were just playing basketball or whatever it was, he invested time in me and my sister. Another thing, he believed in work. Oh, he believed in hard work.
Yes, he did.
Woo! So, you got kids now, never cut grass and never did this, never cleaned up, never vacuumed. Oh, that's not how I grew up. We cut grass, we cleaned the house, we cleaned our rooms, we cleaned everything. And my father was also, he believed in discipline. So you step out of line, my father's gonna say something and you're gonna get a little tap to come along with it. Now I understand not all parents have to do that. Being a parent myself, I've learned you don't always have to take that approach as discipline because every child is different. Some kids, you can just say something, don't do that. And boom, it's done. They will never do it again. Some kids, you got to lean on them a little bit. But I was a child you had to lean on a little bit. I remember growing up, my mom, she had this, it was like this candle holder that was on the wall. And I was playing ball or something and I broke it. Okay. So you would think you break it, you get in trouble. That's the end of it. She got another one. I think I broke that one too. So, it became an ongoing theme. So some kids you got to lean into a little bit more so than others. But my father was strong, but also very peaceful. So he's a great father. Part of the reason I write my books and say the things I say in my talks is because of my father. It's because we were raised in such a way. He poured so much wisdom into me growing up. It's amazing how many youth, even adults, don't even have the simple things that I learned on an everyday basis. So writing the books, I feel like that's my way or that's my duty to share what I've learned to other people. It's amazing. Anywhere from how to manage your money to just making better choices as a man in life. So I try my best to share that wisdom in books and talks and everything else. So my father definitely huge impact on my life, huge impact on my life. And I try to take what I've learned growing up and try to raise my kids the same way. Now, Nate, I know you can attest to this. Your parents tell you things growing up and you ignored it.
Yeah.
And you get older and you come back and say, man.
Right. You hear it.
Yeah. So I've had plenty of those with my father. And I had to go back and say, okay, you know what? You was right back in the day when you told me so-and-so. And he was like, I told you that. I was like, yeah, you told me that. So great influence, just great influence in my life.
Yeah. And me being I can attest to that because we were roommates for I think about good 2 to 3 years.
2 years, yeah.
And I used to see how your dad would come over to the house, and I would hear things your dad would say to you and then say to me. Sometimes when you got it, I got it. So, but to have that, and because I didn't have a father, and your father knew that, and he would say things. So he wouldn't say Ryan. You need to say now Ryan and Nate, y'all
need to,
he should do it. He would say those things, and it would help. And so you knew my godfather. You knew how he was. He'd tell me things, and I didn't do it, and then he'd come back. How he said it was going to happen, it happened.
Yeah.
And so then, as I got older, and I heard things, and I'm doing things, even like now, when I'm raising my son and disciplining my son and talking to Kayla, I can hear my godfather in my ear. Now, son, you need to do this. Son, you need to do that. Did you put on cologne this morning? Did you iron your pants? Did you clean up? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you get your hair cut? Those things that he was constantly on me about, to the point like I'm doing it with my son, to where now when I do his hair, I brush make sure your edge up is tight.
Right.
If I don't do it, he'd be like, Daddy, you forgot to do this part. So it's like now I'm seeing it, how it was imparted to me, and now it's imparted to him. And so those things, like you said, it comes back.
The good thing about that though, so being a parent, it makes you want to do that with your kids. You want your kids to remember what you say now. The same thing. And it's like you want to do right by your kids. You want to instill as much as you can, because like you said, you want your kids to have kids and they hear your voice
Yeah.
in their head. And then, like,
Mm-hmm.
my dad, Nate, told me, oh, I hear him saying, oh, I got to make sure this, I got to make sure that. So it's real important that, we take those values that were bestowed upon us and share it with our kids. So, I'm always thinking, um, am I following my own advice? I'm
That's
always
good.
thinking that with my kids because I just do not believe in the theory of don't do what was it? Do
Do
as
as
I
I say,
say,
not as I
not as
do.
I do. That bugs me. So Nate, I'll share this with you. One thing that's real important to me is I want to show my kids that I enjoy what I do as far as my
Mm-hmm.
job and other things in life. I just don't believe you're supposed to raise your kids to go to school, get a degree or master's, and then work a job they don't like and can't stand. They invested all that time in school into something they don't like. Because if you're doing that, you're demonstrating that to them. You're
Yeah.
showing them you're supposed to get a job and work hard, not like what you do, and do it because you got to do it. And then I don't know. Then you raise kids and you teach them the same thing. So I try my best to show my kids. I do have my rough days at work, but I do enjoy what I do. And on top of that, it's other things that I do. I do the books, I do the talks, and I want to show them you can enjoy life. Life does not have to be hard and just so difficult. There are some great and wonderful things in life. So the example we give goes a long way. So I'm very conscious. I try my hard now to be very conscious of how I operate in front of my kids because we're teaching them. We're teaching
That's
them.
good. Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point because, like I say, everybody tell you go to school, get a job, stay on a job for you. So I tell everybody for my son, if he wants to get a job, I want to teach him to be the best you can be. But I want him to grow up thinking entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
thinking, success minded, thinking, aren't be what is I heard psychologically unemployable. So
I
if
got
he
you.
wants to work for himself, he can work for himself. But if he wants to get a job, he can get a job and enjoy that. That's a good point. I like that. So let me ask you, what
Mm.
does fatherhood mean to you?
Wow. Fatherhood means to me. I'll do it like this. I'll throw out words and then I'll break it down afterwards. So a few words of fatherhood, I would say love, compassion, example, help, encouragement, empowerment, understanding, hope, and encouragement. The thing is, as a father, you want to you want your kids to be the best they can be in life. It's funny as a child, you want to please your parent, but as a parent, you just want to see your kids do and achieve their best in life and live life to the fullest. That's what you really want as a parent. You don't want to see your child struggle, go through hard times, and not enjoy life, but you want to see them enjoy it. So my job as a parent, fatherhood or as a parent, is to raise my kids for what's to come, raise them
Mm-hmm.
for the future. They're gonna be adults one day. So my goal and my focus is to instill in them as much as I can to help them for the future that's ahead. Because I want them to be great adults. I want them to walk into adulthood as best they can. Now, I recognize they're not going to learn everything from me. I recognize that. I recognize I'm going to miss certain things. But how awesome God is what I miss, He's going to teach them en route in life.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
I learned that I'm trying to give them all that I can, try to stow as much as I can in them because when they leave my house, I want them to be able to function on their own. I want them to be able to take care of themselves. Think about it. You want your child to be an adult one day and not rely on you. My father used to always tell me, I'm not always going to be here. He's still here now, but he will always tell me growing up, we're not always, he was talking about him and my mom, we're not always going to be here. So, boy, you got to know how to take care of yourself. And I heard that so many times
Mm.
growing up. So many. Nate, I heard that
I
when I
heard that
was
one too.
when I was, I don't know, 7, 8, then you hit teenager. So I heard it all the way through growing up. And I tell my kids the same thing. I want you to be able to take care of yourself. I think it's important. One of the challenges we do, or one of the things as parents we fall short of, we're not raising them to be adults. And I'm gonna raise my hand. I'm guilty in some aspects of it too. I'm working better on it, especially with my youngest child. But that's a whole nother subject. So I'm spoiled, boy, spoiled. But anyway, but I feel like sometimes we do so much for our kids that they don't know how to function outside our house. You know,
Yeah.
they have to get that experience. You are not going to be here all the time. So I try my best to let them, give them as many tools as I can, but understand they're not going to get all the tools from me. Also, let them fail sometime. They got to learn. You can
Yeah.
tell you, Nate, how many times you've been told to do something and you ain't do it. You
Right.
you
You're
have
right.
to learn from the fall.
Yep.
So sometimes, truth as a parent, your kid's gonna get their heart broken. That's a part of it. That's a part of life. If they don't know how to handle the heartbreak, if they don't know how to handle not getting what they want all the time, or you're trying for something but it didn't turn out as expected, they're not gonna be able to handle that in life. When they get a job, what about when the job says no, you're not getting a promotion? They're not gonna be able to handle that. What if they
Yeah.
say, well, no, you're not going to get this task? They're not going to be able to handle that. How are they going to handle when they get in a relationship, when they're in college or later, and the guy or girl breaks it off with them? They're not going to be able to handle that. So the falls, the trips, the challenges, we have to let our kids experience those because that prepares them for life as well.
It does. And I had to learn that myself. My wife had with my son when he was born because I didn't have the things that I give him. And the time I didn't have a father, I
Yeah.
overcompensated with him. If he said, I was like, huh? He said, Daddy, what? You know, Daddy, can I have? Sure. I want, okay. Yeah, I want, and I come home. And it's like he's a daddy's boy, so he wants all my time when
Mhm.
he wants it. So before I would come home, and like before I started doing these, I would come home, and it would be, Daddy. As soon as he say call my name, I'm giving him all my time. If I got to do something, Dad, I want you to play with me. Dad, can you play with me? I stop what I'm doing and play with him. I stop. I come home. I'm tired. I need to go lay down. But I
Yeah.
want you to play with me, Dad. I play. My wife had to tell me, you gotta teach him boundaries.
Yeah.
You can't jump when he say jump. He has to learn. You can't, because I would go to the store every time we go to the store. If he whine for a toy, I got to
I'm going to get it. Yep.
and, yeah. And so my wife was like, I'm not getting him a toy every time he go in the store. She said, she was like, you got to break him out of that. She said, because he can't expect to always get something every time he go in the store. So I had to break him out. And it's getting better. I can say it's getting better. It's gotten better.
Good.
Now, but what happened for me was I felt like he would think I was neglecting him if
Yeah.
I told him no. Because of how I grew up, my wife said no. He knows you love him.
Yes.
He knows. And I had to learn that. And I had to see it for myself that if I just tell him no and stick to it, he'll go about his business.
Yeah. He ain't worry about
go,
you.
go grab his game and do what he want to do. He may come back down. Like last night I was watching Super Bowl. I said, okay, Dad's going to give you an hour on your game. Then I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. Okay, no problem. As soon as time went off, Dad's got to go. Please, Daddy, please. No, I'm going. Then when I got downstairs, he kept coming downstairs. Daddy, I need your help on this part of the game. No, Daddy's watching football.
Yeah.
So he went back upstairs. He whined a minute, but he went back upstairs. So I had to learn that. Quick story with that. I remember when I was in college, and this was before we became roommates. The young lady I was dating, and um, but it was a time where I, I I I I was like my rent was due, and I was working, and I would spend all my money on her, spend all my money, and I would call my dad, be like, Dad, hey, I need money for I got to pay my rent. He was sitting. He said this time he was like, don't you work?
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah. He said, what are you doing with your money? He said, you spending it on that girl, ain't you? He said, figure it out.
There you go. There you go.
Yo, man, my heart dropped. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm about to get put out. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Couple hours later, he called me back. He said, I need to tell you something. He said, I'm not gonna be here always.
There you go.
He said, you gotta learn how to take care of yourself. You gotta be good with your money. You gotta stop spending money because dad is not gonna be here always. And he said, now go to Western Union. That's when you had to go to Western Union. You ain't had
Yeah,
cash
yeah.
out. You had to go to Western Union, fill out the slip, and have your ID or the password stuff.
There
But
you go.
after that, I never called them for nothing else
That's lesson. That's lesson.
because I never got in those situations anymore because I'm like, what happens if he's not here?
Yeah.
And I gotta take care of it, myself. So that's how we teach our kids. So, what's the best part of being a father?
Oh man. Okay. I give you instances. I'll put it that way. When your child makes a good grade and they study for that test and they got a good grade and they're excited about it. That's one of the great moments. When your child graduates and goes to the next grade, that's a great moment. Um, when your child finds something they really enjoy, like high school, for instance, maybe they enjoy the band, or maybe they enjoy art or singing or whatever, and they find that thing that just excites them, that's a great moment. And I think as parents, we have to be mindful of that because that's a key into where they're going to go in the future. Kind of
Mm,
like you, Nate, you're a musician. You're a
mm,
musician. So when you picked up that first interest in, or when your mom or whoever saw you, they knew there was something. Maybe you were tapping and they said some music in that boy. And who knew then that it would turn into you playing the piano and you doing
mm,
weddings and everything else and playing for churches? So that's a great moment when you see that. Now, further down the road, it's a great moment when they get their first apartment. I know that's further down the road, but that's that, you're about to experience life without me. Or when they go
mm.
to college, college is a scary moment, but it's a good moment. It's a needed moment. So for my kids, their first year in college, the two oldest ones, we wanted them to stay on campus. Even though it was local, we wanted them to stay on campus. My mom told me a long time ago, she said, you need to let them stay on campus so they can get an experience of what it's like without you. And that's
That's
the
good.
first taste of growing up without their parents. Okay, yeah. Even I knew if my kids went to college and blew the first year, they got that experience of what it's like to take care of themselves. They got to determine if they eat, when they eat. They got to determine to make sure they go to class, if they do their homework. That's the responsibility of being an adult. Because you got to think, as you get older, that turns into your job. That turns into everything else. That turns into raising their kids. So to go back to your question, wonderful things about being a parent is watching them grow and understand life for themselves. And you're a part of that
Good.
process. You're not always, I tell every father that's listening, you're not going to get everything right. That is okay. They're not going to learn everything from you. That is okay. So I'll tell you something interesting about being a parent. You're going to experience this, Nate. So you're going to tell your son to do stuff over and over, and he gonna like, yeah, Dad, I hear you. His friend gonna tell him the exact same thing you told him, and he's like, Dad, you know what I learned today? I learned so and so. Oh man, and you're gonna be like, boy, I was trying to tell you that every day. So that may seem frustrating, but as a parent, I will tell you this: the thing about it is, as long as they get it. It doesn't matter if it comes from
Mhm.
you or not. If they get it, as long as they get it. Because you think about the things you learn in life, your parents try to teach you that you didn't pay attention to, but you got it later. You look at life as the full stream of it. It's not about who
Yeah.
taught you it, it's did you learn it for what's coming.
Yeah,
So
because sometimes your friends might say it in a different way. Now we talking about the good things, people. We talking about the good things. We talking about the good things. Your friends might say it in a different way because I tell you, those years that we were roommates, um, we learned a lot from each other.
yes, we did.
I could say, and we grew together in those 3 years.
Yes.
And a lot of things that I was taught because of what you were taught by your dad, it brought it into light for me as to what my dad was saying, my godfather, and then what your dad was saying, because I saw you walk it out as my roommate. And I started saying, so when I wasn't getting it from my parents, but then you would say, man, if you do like this, and I'm like, okay, because we related to each other.
Definitely.
And and that's so sometimes I see what you're saying. Our kids, their friends, the good things now.
The
their
good things.
their friends could tell them something and that we've been telling them, but they can hear it differently because their friends relate to them. But that's why it's important that we continue, that we continue, that we continue to say them. And that leads me into my next question now. How important are a father's words to his children?
I'm gonna piggyback off of what you just said to go into that. You said that we continue saying it. I learned some years back that if you got something to teach your child or tell your child and they're not fully getting it, still keep saying it. They may not get it now, but they'll get it later. Kind of how we were raised. You may say something, you were taught something growing up, you didn't get it then. Your brain couldn't process it then. But when you get older, it comes back to memory. Oh, that's what I was trying to be taught. So as a father, your words are very important. They're valuable. They're jewels. One thing I remember about growing up, I'd be in the car with my dad, and he would drop little jewels on me while we in the car. Now I don't fully know what they mean yet, but he's dropping jewels. You know, the whole thing about when, like I said, we're not always going to be here. Learn how to take care of yourself and
Mhm.
make wise decisions. Don't let a girl take all your money. I mean, it was little jewels. Now he dropping this when I'm little. I'm little, so I'm not getting all of this. But as I grew older, those nuggets of wisdom I understood later. So the things you tell your kids are very important. Um, it's important to tell your kids thank you. It's important to tell your
Mhm.
kids you did good. It's important to tell your kids I love you. And I'm gonna tell you something about I love you. For all the men who think, men don't tell their kids I love you, you don't know how powerful that thing is. Because first of all, your parents might not, or your dad might not have told you, but it is a powerful 3 words that can change your child's life. It is
Mhm.
very powerful. And even if if you say it to your child and your child does not say it back, you keep saying it.
Keep
It's
saying it.
sinking in. Even if you don't think so, trust me, it's sinking in. It's going to hit them days when they alone or they frustrated and they're going to remember my parent loves me. My father loves me. So
Yep.
you keep saying it even if they don't fully understand it. I remember I was trying to teach my daughters little things growing up, and I had a feeling they wouldn't get it then, but I still told them. And as they grew older, they understood it. It's amazing what the little things mean to a child and helps them develop into adults. The other thing is, lost my thought. I was right there on my thought and I lost it. That's
It's
just
all
getting
good,
older.
but
But
but it's good because like one of the things that like my godfather, his words, he never like had to discipline me with a whipping or anything. His words
yeah,
were like because it made you feel bad for doing what you did.
yes,
Because you felt so bad that you disappointed him that you didn't do it again because his words and things he said um like pay your tithes like you breathe and pay your bills like you breathe.
mhm,
He said things to me like always look your best when you walk out of the house because you never know who you're gonna meet.
yes.
And my son asked me one day, I'll tell him he had to match, because I'm always big on him matching his
Coordinate.
clothes,
Got to coordinate.
coordinate. And he said, Daddy, he just asked, he said, Daddy, why? Because he wanted to mix match that day. He said, Daddy, why do we have to match? 'Cause I think we were going to the barber shop or something. And I said, because son, you never know. I said, because Papa told Daddy, you never know who you're gonna meet when you leave the house. And he said, okay, Daddy. And then he went on. But it's just those tidbits of words. Like my dad he'd get up and put on a 3-piece suit just to walk around the house. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
3-piece suit to sit around the house. And so it's like those things that were important to them because our words go into their future. Our words fall, like you said, you hear things your parents say to you as you get older because they planted those seeds in you. So as you grow, those seeds grow.
Yeah.
and it follows you into your future, into your life. And then there comes a point in time where you're going to need that wisdom when you get into a situation, and that wisdom comes. God always brings that wisdom up.
Yes.
It's like, not have to be like the angel on the shoulder, the
Yeah.
devil on the shoulder. And the devil is telling you, well, you need to just go ahead and do it. You just go, or don't do it. The angel's like, your dad's words. You
Words.
remember this?
Yeah. There you
Or
go.
your mentor, or your friend. Remember what your dad said. Remember what your dad said. And then you're thinking, and then your parents' voice. This is good. Your parents' voice should be stronger than any other voice other than God.
Yes. I
You
agree.
know, but next to God, your parents, our voice should be louder than any. So our kids should be out in the world, like you said, when they get on their own, take care of themselves, and when they're making decisions or try to do things, like once they've developed their relationship with God, God's going to bring that wisdom to them. But next to God's voice, they should hear our voice over the world. That's what I'm trying to say.
Now I will tell you this. You know the stuff that I did, right?
Yeah.
I would have did a whole lot more if I didn't hear my parents' voice. So
I feel you.
it's you're right. That voice is so strong when you're going, okay, you've done wrong, but when you about to step over past the threshold of what wrong is, it's a voice.
There's a voice
And
really
it's
bad.
you going too far, bro. That's too far.
Yeah.
And that's your parents. Because you hear your parents and you don't want to make your parents look bad. You don't want to make your parents look back and say, you don't want your parents to dismiss you as their child. So you learn to pull it back. The other thing is, and I remember what I was trying to say earlier, sometimes you're teaching your kids when you don't even know it. You asked
Mm-hmm.
about words and what your parents say. It's amazing how much your kids hear how the husband talks to his wife. That is a teaching moment in itself, and you don't even know it. If you're constantly arguing with your wife, you're teaching your child. Whether you got
Yep.
a son or daughter, you're teaching. So if you're teaching, if your son is listening to you always argue, fuss back at your wife, he's thinking, well, shoot, that's what manhood look like. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to treat my wife that way. I'm going to treat the girls that way. If you have a daughter, he's thinking that's how I'm supposed to be treated, especially if
Yep.
the mother puts up with it. So it's not always what you're saying and you're trying to teach. You have teaching moments when you don't even know it. So as a parent, you got to be conscious. Raising a kid raises you. That's
Yeah.
basically what it is. It raises you. As a man, and I'll talk real talk. As a man, when you have a daughter, you don't look at women the same way.
I bet.
I've said at many men's talks, I've said the fear of a man is for his daughter to meet him when he was younger. That is his
Yep.
greatest fear. That is he does not want his daughter to meet him when he was younger because he knew
I
what you were capable of.
I told my wife, and I told people that all the time. My biggest fear, and I had to get over it being a fear, but I said my biggest fear of having a girl is that I know one day she's gonna run into the guy that I used to be.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have to teach her how to deal with that, how to handle that, and hope and pray that she does. Because that guy was slick with his words.
Mm-hmm.
And I was we gonna go on for this one.
So I would tell you this though, Nate. So you brought up a good point. So in that, and I'm not trying to do a plug, but I wrote this book years ago called Watch Out for Me.
Yeah. Oh, it's good.
God put this book in my heart, and I never forget the conversation I had with God with how I came up with this book. Was I used to tell you already know. I tell a guy, what you should do to get over on her, this and that, and everything else. Do this, do that. Put a rose on the chair. Say this, say that. And years later, I'm married and everything. And one of me and my wife's friends said something, and I was thinking, like, you fell for that. Wow. And I remember God came clear in my ear and said, you know why she fell for that though? Because it's probably something you told. You need to tell women the things that you told the men. And the title of the book is Watch Out for Me. So it's watch out for the things that I did. And I
Mm,
had a lot of women come back to me and say they really learn and it open their eyes to a lot of things in life. So if we teaching that stuff early, if you think about it, one girl, I think she taught it to her daughter because it taught
mm,
her daughter how to watch out for the things that's coming her way. And I broke it down to a very intense level, but I wanted to make it pure and to the point. You know, what's the guy's intent? You can tell by what he says to you. If
mm-hmm.
it's always about trying to get you alone or get you to his house, you know what the intent is. And we as
Yeah,
men don't want to talk about it, but that's what you got to teach your daughter because it's another you out there going after your
it
child.
is.
I mean, keep it real. And then the thing about it is sometimes we as men, we don't think about what we teach our sons. You know, it's okay to teach them, yeah, you know, you can get girls, yeah, it's all good. You know, yeah, you're a guy, you got different girls. Okay, that's all cool till he comes back and say, Dad, I got this girl pregnant.
Right.
Everything changes at that point. Boy, where you get that from? And he ain't gonna turn around and say you. But so you got to be mindful even what you teaching your son. Cause
Yep.
you know, I admit my parents, they taught me to be respectful. They taught me, you know, if you're gonna have sex, you have safe sex. He said, I would love for you not to do something, but if you do, keep this in
Mm-hmm.
mind. And I'm grateful they had that eye open. They were open enough to tell me that type of thing. But that's a real important. That is very important to have those conversations with your son or your daughter because you don't know where it'll wind up.
Yeah, because they're seeing that, and you said something about your daughter. If you're constant arguing with your wife, your daughter's seeing that, and she's saying that's how she should be treating your son, saying that's how he should treat your wife. One of the things I learned about, I was talking to a father on one episode, is also with discipline. Because like you said, you gotta learn how to discipline your child. If you're constantly yelling at your daughter and just
Mhm.
whipping her all the time and not talking to her and doing, then she's going to think the love that she receives from her father, that's how she's supposed to
That's what
receive from her
she said.
husband. Now, I'm
Exactly.
not saying don't discipline her, but you got to look at how do you discipline her? How do you? I had to learn. You know, each child is different. Like you said, I had to learn how to discipline my son. You know, there are times where it calls for a whipping, but my son is stubborn. So you can spank him all day, and he gonna still want what he want. You know, so it's like you mad because I'm mad at him because I just whipped you. You're supposed to be like, oh yes sir, yes sir. No, you still
No.
asking for what you want. So you got to go to bed. You sit him to bed. That's a different story.
Yeah.
You
You
don't hurt
gotta
his
find it.
feelings.
You gotta
You
find
take
it.
some, yeah, you take some away from him, you hurt his feelings. Now I can talk to you and talk to you about what you just did, use my words and speak to you and tell you, okay, what daddy like, how you disappointed daddy and things like that. So you got to find that balance on how this. Now the next child may be told you, I make it say, hey, don't do that. Okay, daddy, okay, yes
Yeah.
sir, but if you look at me and my wife's personality, doubt it. But uh, you know, I love you, babe. But it's is that's how it is. But before we go, the next question, guys, if you're watching, listening, we want to hear what you guys say. We want to hear your comments. If you got questions, just ask questions. Let us know if something here resonated with you. And if you got a question for Ryan or for me, then we will answer it right here live for you. Just let us know, and we got you. All right. So, what's the best piece of advice you've received from your dad?
You ain't got enough on this time on this program for that question.
Give me one. Give me one.
Wow. The one I would say the one that speaks to me the loudest is the one I mentioned earlier. We're not always going to be here for you, and you got to learn how to take care of yourself. That's still ringing in my ear, and that covers a lot of the actions I take. That directs my path in so many things. So many things. I won't take a risk as a parent. It could be a financial risk or whatever that would jeopardize or put my kids and my wife in a bad situation. I'm not
Mm,
going to jump out and start a business and refinance the house. And if it don't go well and I don't have a good business plan and I ain't never tried the business and I don't know anything about it, and if it falls, I'm going to lose my house. I will not do that because I understand um, what comes with it. I tell my wife, I said, you will never do but so bad because I'm only going to do but so bad. So my kids
mm-hmm,
will never go down but so low because I'm not going to go but so low. And the reason that's because my father told me I'm not always going to be here. We're not always going to be here. So you got to learn to take care of yourself. So in that, I keep in mind, you got to learn how to take care of yourself. Now, that doesn't mean I won't ask for help. If something comes up, life happens. And you want
mm-hmm.
to be able to ask your you want to be able to ask for help when it comes. And even to that point, you want to let your kids know that they can ask you for help. That's a good point right there. It is very important to let your kids know if something comes up that you will help them. Don't just stonewall them and you got to figure it out on your own. No, give them help. Give them help. Let them know that help is there. And whether they choose to exercise that help is something different. But like I said, my father giving me that advice, it it kind of helps me through just the choices I make in life, period. And even in raising my kids, it helps me with that. I want to make sure they can take care of themselves. I had a thought the other day, Nate, and I might be wrong for saying it, but it is what it is. I had a thought that would you rather have your child do excellent in school, great grades, wind a great job, but never leave the house and can't take care of themselves versus a child that probably didn't go to college, bought a night, got a nice job, moved out, and can take care of themselves. And my thought was, I would rather have a child that can take care of themselves versus one that has a great job and everything else going, but can't take care of themselves. Because if something happens to you, they're going to fall apart and they're going to lose everything they have because they have no foundation. The child that
Mm-hmm.
has the foundation and knows how to take care of themselves and work for themselves can always go up. They can always learn. They can always make better choices in life. So to me, it's very important that we teach our kids to be able to be adults. I know it's scary, but if we show them that being an adult can be fun, it's not all bills and stress and worry. But there's some great and wonderful things about being an adult. There's some great things, some new experiences, new things to conquer, new things to go after and achieve. I think that'll make our kids more excited about growing up versus being fearful.
Right. That's good. That's good. So what's um what's an important piece of advice that you have given to your children?
Important piece of advice I've given to my kids: don't spend all your money. Manage your money. Watch your money. Don't blow it all because you might lose it all. I'm big on with my kids. I'm big on okay. If you got $10 and you want to buy something for $8, your child most likely gonna ask you to pay for it. And I'm gonna look at my child and say, no, you got $10. You buy it. And the answer to that child's answer is going to determine how bad they want that thing. Because if they think about it and say, well, it's $8, that means I'm only gonna have $2 left. Yeah, you're right. Oh, I don't want it that bad. No, I don't want it that bad. That's a life lesson right there. Versus if you always give you okay, you got $10, it's $8. Okay, I'm gonna buy it for you. You're teaching your child that you're going to supply everything they want in life and they can keep their money. And that's not how life works. But that child that says, no, I might, my child, I ain't gonna lie, my child will be like, well, I'm gonna have to find it on sale somewhere. Because it's no, I got $10. I'm gonna try to find it for $4. That's gonna be my child most likely. But it teaches them responsibility with their money because I think that's important. That's a part of life. You got to understand how to manage the money you would have. I always tell people it's not about how much money you make; it's how much you got left over. And that was one lesson I taught my daughters. It's I don't care what you do in your career and how much you make. I just want you to be able to take care of your yourself and be able to enjoy the life you have and make wise choices with the money that you make. So that was I would say one of the greatest lessons I try to teach my kids is to be mindful of what you have. This is the money that you have. Make wise choices with it.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And I'm learning um, as a father. I laugh because I said all my friends got kids in college, kids getting married, kids having babies, and I got a 5-year old. And
Take
so
your time, bro. Take your time, bro.
so I'm still learning with the nuggets of wisdom, that I give my son. But one of the most important things that I believe in telling him is that he's great, you
Yes.
know, and
Yeah.
that to show him that he's going to be great in life, and that that he's destined for something great. And I tell him that all the time. I say, buddy, you're great, right? Daddy, I know. Then he said one day, he said, Daddy, you keep telling me that. I said, I know, because I want you to know
Yeah. And then
that you're great, and he knows that, and I can see it in things, because he hates losing. You know, he playing video games. He hates losing at anything, any game. Now I had to retract it, not retract it, but I had to explain to him that if you lose, not to have a fit, not to be a
yeah,
sore
yeah, the
loser,
other side of it.
but
Yeah.
yeah, now you figure out what you need to do to win,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing with that, I'm seeing the effects of what I teach him, because now that I'm telling him all the time he's great, now he's figuring out, he's like, he feel like he has to be great at everything all the time,
Hmm.
and I want him to, but I have to show him that there may be times where you're not. And so you have to, at that moment in time, you have to learn how to deal with that and not have a fit. So, and but it's helping me, and I'm learning those critical pieces of advice. I learn from guys like you, guys that come on. When you guys give advice, trust I'm writing it down. I'm taking those nuggets, and I'm using them with my son.
So,
So go
well, I
ahead.
do want to say this though. Keep telling your son that. Keep telling your son that, because that's building his confidence. And think of the opposite of that. Think about the child that doesn't have that or doesn't hear that. They're not always going to think less of themselves as not being good enough. And I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't accomplish that. And that's harder to overcome than thinking you can do great things. You just got to deal when things don't go your way. It seems like it's a little harder to overcome when you've never been told that you're good.
Yeah,
One thing my grandmother did was every time we saw her about every weekend. And before I left the house, she always say, Ryan, you're gonna be somebody. It's something about you, but you are gonna be somebody. And when I became adult, I heard that and I realized grandma was right. But I would hear that every single Sunday I went over her house. And that did have an impact on me. I think it's very important that we tell our kids they are gonna do great things. They are gonna do wonderful things. Even if they seem weird or odd or different to us, and it's different than what we're used to. This is another generation.
yeah,
So what they want and what they try to accomplish and do in life is going to look a little different than ours. But if you can still instill to them how great they are, how wonderful they are, and what they can actually accomplish, it makes a difference. It's a
yeah.
great foundation. So keep doing that, Nate. It'll pay off.
Yeah, and it does, because like for me, with my experience, I had my mom, and my
Mhm.
mom would tell me, "Don't ever say you can't do something." My mom would throw little nuggets in there. But my mom was a single mom of 5 kids.
That's a lot,
So
bro.
she had 5 of us, and I didn't have that father in the home. Now, as I got older, I had my godfather, had father figures, but it's different when that father's in the home.
Yeah.
And it's different when you start your kids off young, telling that, because I didn't hear it when I was young. As I got older, it was a struggle for me to build. I had to build confidence. I didn't get confidence built up till I was in college. And little did really a lot of people know. And even in college, I was insecure about a lot of stuff, and questioning, you know, my greatness. When we were living together, there was a lot of things that I used to mask, what I was wanting to hear a father say, what I was wanting. And I used the covering of, the things we did, being a
Mhm.
player, and all that stuff to mask my insecurity of not believing I was able to do something, because that was what I became good at, which I realize now, if I had told myself what everything else I was good doing, if I had put the same level of energy into that I did into that, then I would have been as great. I didn't have anybody to stay on me about my schooling, so I didn't finish school. You were, even though we went out late at night, you came back home and you hit the books because you knew your dad.
That voice
About the books, and you still got the grades. You graduated and stuff like that. And so that's why I'm now focusing on instilling into my son, but what I did have in God, with mentor and father figures in my life, and and got me to where I am now. Now I'm not insecure anymore. I'm not questioning whether I'm gonna be great or not. There may be a time where I question, is this time to do this? Is this time to do that? But because God is my father, speaking to me and speaking into me and using male figure. Now, I want to say to guys out there who didn't have your fathers, God is your father. And if you don't have a father, allow God to speak to you. Allow God to speak into your ear. And then when you do that, when you allow God to speak to you and be your father, then he can help you get to that point, because I had a hard time seeing God as father. How people say God's our father, see God's father. I had a hard time seeing that even into my adulthood, because I didn't have an example of it for real. But when I got a hold of that and could see, how God could be a father as because of people that God placed in my life, then I was like, okay. But when my son was born, it elevated that.
Yep.
Because God was speaking to me on how to raise my son. And as he was teaching me how to raise Caleb, he was also teaching me how he's raising me.
So I'm gonna piggyback. I know we don't have too much time, but so you said something very powerful though. My parents taught me a lot. My father taught me a lot. My grandfather taught me a lot. But God taught me other things about being a parent. And the reason I say that is because each generation is different. Each child is different. So being a parent, you got to figure out how to maneuver those differences and what works for each child. Yeah. And it was times when I was like, God, I don't know what to do. and God would tell me, you do this, you do that, say this, tell her this. I don't want to tell her that. Apologize. That's my child. We'll apologize. And I would go and I would apologize. And what that does, that kind of brings you from up here to down here with your child, and your child can relate to you. So it's a lot of things that God can teach you about being a parent. Don't think it's always got to be a physical person. God will give you little wisdom to teach you about childhood. It is absolutely amazing. It is absolutely amazing the things that God has taught me just about being a parent, because everything you do is not going to be identical to what your parents did with you, because your generation, the next generation is different. Everything is not the same. I mean, our generation didn't know nothing about no cell phone and internet and everything else,
right.
And tweets and Twitters and Facebook and, Instagrams. And, they didn't have to worry about that, but we do. So it's certain things we got to do that's up to this generation. And when you got that relationship with God, God can teach you those things. And then the wonderful thing is God will put people in your life to teach you little nuggets.
Yes,
now, that does not mean they have to be in your life for the whole time. It could be for a season. It could be for one conversation. And you got to be aware of that. Don't try to hold on something that God trying to tell you let go just because they gave you one piece of advice. No, if that was the only advice they can give you, that's good. Take that and that's it. But I've learned when you say, if simple as a prayer is, God, teach me to be the parent that you want me to be. And what I've learned is the greatest example is how God treats you. If God forgives you for the things you do that's stupid and dumb and you know you was wrong, and yet he still forgives you and say, you know what, I'm going to bless you anyway. Remember that with your kids when they do something dumb and stupid and then you just mad, you want to go off. Okay, you made a mistake. I forgive you. What did you learn from it? Move on.
Yeah. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you, man. We thank you for coming on tonight. So, guys, just thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us tonight for another episode of A Father's Authority. That was my good friend, old college buddy, Ryan Jenkins. He imparted some great wisdom and some good information. Guys, he put my business out there. No, I'm just kidding. But, guys, you can go to our website if you want to see this again at kingdomrelationships.org. Guys, subscribe to the podcast. If you enjoyed this and you want to hear more or hear more of our episodes, you can go to iTunes, Google Play Store, Spotify, and you can subscribe to the podcast and listen to it over and over again. And guys, when you go there, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating. We strive for 5s, and just give us a review so other people can see it and want to join in on the conversation. Guys, again, I thank you for joining. Go to kingdomrelationships.org and you can support us there, and you can see all that we're doing, and you can see these other interviews and other interviews that I've done as well. Guys, thank you. Love you. Be victorious.